The horse stood outside the abandoned house every single night, no matter how hard people tried to pull him away. Rain, storms, freezing wind, nothing could make him leave. The townspeople thought the animal had gone crazy. Some said the horse was waiting for its dead owner. Others believed something terrifying was hidden inside the empty house. But then, one little girl noticed something nobody else did. Every night, the horse kept staring at the upstairs window and crying, not making noise like a normal horse, almost like it was begging someone to come out. That's when the entire town realized this wasn't loyalty. This was a warning. And what they discovered inside that old house the next morning shocked everyone forever. Before we reveal the shocking truth hidden inside that abandoned house, make sure you subscribe to the channel right now for more emotional and mysterious animal stories that will leave you speechless. And tell us in the comments, what would you do if you saw a horse standing outside an empty house every single night? If this story gave you chills, don't forget to hit the like button, share this video with your friends, and press the bell icon so you never miss our next unbelievable story. And one more thing. What topic should our next video be about? The old house stood far outside the town, silent, broken, and forgotten by almost everyone. Tall dead grass surrounded the property, and the wooden walls looked ready to collapse at any moment. The windows were covered in dust, the roof was damaged from years of storms, and the front gate moved slowly whenever the cold wind touched it. Nobody had lived there for years. At least, that's what people believed. But every single night, just after sunset, a lonely black horse appeared in front of the house. No one knew where it came from. The horse would walk slowly down the empty road, stop directly in front of the house, and stand there for hours without moving. Its dark eyes stayed fixed on the upstairs window as if it was waiting for someone. At first, the townspeople ignored it. But after weeks passed, fear slowly spread across the town. "Why does it keep coming back?" people whispered. Some believed the horse belonged to the old owner of the house, a man who mysteriously disappeared years earlier without leaving behind a single clue. Others believed something far darker. An old woman in town claimed the owner had died inside the house and his spirit still wandered through the rooms at night. A group of teenagers once dared each other to enter the property after midnight, but they ran away screaming only minutes later. They swore they heard footsteps upstairs. After that night, nobody wanted to go near the house again. But the horse still returned. Every single night. The villagers tried everything to scare it away. Some men shouted and threw rocks near the road. Others lit torches and waved sticks in the air. One farmer even tried leading the horse away with food and water. But nothing worked. The horse always escaped, and somehow returned to the exact same spot before midnight. It became worse during storms. Whenever heavy rain fell across the town, the horse stood directly beneath the upstairs window while thunder shook the sky. And then came the sound that terrified everyone. The horse cried. Not normal horse noises. It sounded painful, almost human. People shut their windows whenever they heard it. Children stopped walking near the road after sunset. Even the bravest men in town refused to pass the abandoned house at night. Then strange rumors started spreading everywhere. Some believed hidden treasure was buried inside the house and the horse was guarding it. Others claimed they saw shadows moving behind the upstairs curtains even though nobody lived there. One man swore he saw a lantern glowing from inside the house at nearly 2 in the morning. But the strangest thing of all was the horse's behavior. It refused food. Villagers left apples, hay, and water near the gate, yet the horse barely touched anything. Instead, it kept staring toward the same upstairs window every night like it was waiting for someone to appear. Days turned into months. The fear inside the town only grew stronger. People began locking their doors earlier. Parents warned children never to mention the house. And slowly, the abandoned home became something far more dangerous than an old building. It became a place people feared. A place surrounded by mystery. A place nobody dared enter anymore. Except for the horse, who still refused to leave. Years before the strange horse began appearing outside the abandoned house, the property belonged to a man named Walter Grayson. Most people in town described him the same way. Quiet. Kind. Mysterious. He lived alone at the edge of town and rarely visited crowded places. Every morning, people saw him riding through the fields on his large black horse. The animal followed him everywhere like a loyal friend instead of a pet. Children often watched from a distance as Walter spoke softly to the horse while repairing fences or feeding chickens outside the house. Some villagers thought it was strange how close they were. But nobody ever saw Walter treat the animal badly. In fact, many believed the horse was the only family he had left. Then one winter night, Walter suddenly disappeared. No warning. No goodbye. No trace. The next morning, his front gate stood wide open while the house looked completely empty. The horse was gone too. At first, the townspeople assumed Walter had left town forever. But days passed. Then weeks. And nobody heard from him again. The sheriff organized search parties around the forest, nearby rivers, and old roads outside town. Men searched for footprints, broken wagon tracks, or any sign of an accident. They found nothing. It was as if Walter had simply vanished into thin air. Eventually, people stopped searching. But the rumors never stopped. Some believed Walter had enemies nobody knew about. Others whispered that he discovered something valuable hidden near the property and disappeared protecting it. A few older villagers claimed the house itself was cursed long before Walter ever moved there. As years passed, the empty home slowly became darker and more terrifying. Paint peeled from the walls. Windows cracked. The upstairs curtains remained perfectly still for months at a time, until people started noticing strange things at night. Lights. Footsteps. Shadows. One delivery driver swore he saw movement in the upstairs bedroom while passing the road after midnight. Another man claimed he heard someone crying inside the house during a thunderstorm. Nobody could explain it. Then the horse returned. The first time people saw it again, nearly everyone froze in shock. It looked older and thinner than before, but there was no mistake, it was Walter's horse. And somehow, after disappearing for years, it walked straight back to the abandoned house like it had never left. From that moment, fear spread faster through town than ever before. People became obsessed with the mystery. Every shop, cafe, and street corner filled with stories about the house. "The horse is waiting for Walter's ghost," some whispered. "No," others argued. "Something trapped his spirit inside." A few greedy men even tried searching the property for hidden treasure, believing Walter had secretly buried money before vanishing. But none of them stayed long. Every person who entered the property came back pale and shaken. One teenager claimed he heard breathing behind him upstairs. Another swore the bedroom door slammed shut by itself. Soon, nobody wanted anything to do with the place anymore. Except one person. A young girl named Emma. Unlike the others, Emma didn't believe the horse was evil. Every evening, she secretly watched it from a hill near the road. And after many nights, she noticed something strange. The horse never acted angry. It never attacked anyone. It never tried entering the town. Instead, it looked scared, worried, almost desperate. While everyone else saw a haunted animal guarding a cursed house, Emma saw something completely different. She saw a creature trying to tell people something. And one cold night, during heavy rain and thunder, Emma noticed the horse staring toward her from the road as if it wanted her to follow. That was the moment she made a decision that would change the entire town forever. That night, the storm felt different. Cold rain crashed against the rooftops while strong winds howled through the empty streets of the town. Most families locked their doors early and stayed away from the windows. But Emma couldn't stop thinking about the horse. For weeks, she had watched it return to the abandoned house every night. And tonight, something about its eyes felt almost human, like it was begging for help. So while her parents slept, Emma quietly grabbed a flashlight, slipped on her boots, and sneaked outside into the storm. The road leading toward the old house looked darker than ever. Thunder shook the sky as she walked carefully through the mud. Every tree branch moving in the wind made her heart race faster. Then she saw it. The black horse stood near the broken front gate exactly where it always waited. Rain covered its body, yet it didn't move. The moment Emma stepped closer, the horse slowly turned its head toward her. For a second, fear rushed through her chest. But instead of acting wild, the horse calmly walked toward the front porch of the abandoned house. Then it stopped, almost like it wanted her to follow. Emma swallowed hard and looked up at the old building. The upstairs window stared down at her like dark, empty eyes. She nearly turned around and ran home. But then she heard it. A sound. Very faint. Almost impossible to hear beneath the storm. Knock, knock, knock. Emma froze. The sound came from inside the house. Her hands trembled as she slowly climbed the wooden steps leading to the front door. The old porch creaked loudly beneath her feet. The horse remained behind her, staring at the entrance. Then suddenly, creak! The front door slowly opened by itself. Emma gasped and stepped backward. Cold air rushed from inside the dark hallway carrying the smell of dust and mold. For several seconds, she stood completely frozen. Every scary story she had ever heard about the house filled her mind. Ghosts. Shadows. Curses. But then the horse made a soft sound behind her. Not angry. Not frightening. Sad. Emma tightened her grip on the flashlight and slowly stepped inside. The floorboards groaned under every footstep. Dust floated through the beam of her flashlight while old furniture sat covered beneath white sheets. Spider webs filled the corners of the ceiling, and the grandfather clock near the wall had stopped ticking years ago. Yet something felt wrong. The house didn't feel abandoned. It felt waiting. Emma carefully moved deeper into the hallway. Then her flashlight landed on a picture frame hanging crooked on the wall. It was Walter, standing beside the same black horse. Both looked younger and happier than she had ever imagined. She continued searching the downstairs rooms. The kitchen looked untouched. An old cup still rested on the table. A coat hung beside the back door. It almost looked like someone had planned to return at any moment. Then another sound echoed through the house. Thump. Emma jumped. The noise came from upstairs. Her breathing became shaky. For a moment she considered running home and forgetting everything. But the horse suddenly stepped inside the doorway behind her and stared toward the staircase. As if it already knew where the sound came from. Emma slowly turned toward the stairs. Each wooden step groaned loudly as she climbed higher. The storm outside grew stronger, and thunder flashed through the cracked upstairs windows. At the end of the hallway, one door stood closed. Unlike the others, this door looked different. Scratches covered the wood, and the horse stopped directly in front of it. Then Emma heard it again. A weak sound. Very weak. Almost like someone struggling to breathe. Her eyes widened in horror. There was someone inside the room. Emma slowly reached for the rusty doorknob while her hands shook uncontrollably. The horse lowered its head quietly beside her. And with one deep breath, Emma turned the handle and pushed the door open. The door opened with a loud creak. Emma lifted her flashlight with shaking hands and slowly pointed it into the dark room. At first, she saw nothing. Just dust. Broken furniture. Old blankets scattered across the floor. Then suddenly, a weak voice whispered from the corner. "Help me!" Emma nearly screamed. Her flashlight moved quickly across the room until the light finally stopped on a thin old man lying beside the wall. His beard was long and gray. His clothes were dirty and torn, and his face looked pale from years of suffering. But what terrified Emma the most was recognizing him. It was Walter Grayson, the missing owner of the house. Still alive. Emma's eyes filled with shock as she stepped closer. Walter looked weak, barely able to move. Chains hung from one of his ankles, locked tightly to an old metal pipe beside the wall. The horse immediately rushed toward him. For the first time, the animal stopped looking sad. It gently pressed its head against Walter's shoulder while the old man placed a trembling hand on the horse's neck. Tears rolled down Emma's face. The horse had not been guarding the house. It had been trying to save him. All these years, Walter struggled to breathe as Emma knelt beside him. "You must listen carefully," he whispered weakly. Then the horrifying truth finally came out. Years earlier, Walter's younger cousin discovered that Walter owned valuable land surrounding the property. The land was worth a fortune because a railroad company planned to build nearby. Greed changed everything. One night, Walter's cousin attacked him inside the house and secretly locked him inside the upstairs room. Then he spread rumors across town claiming Walter had disappeared forever. Because Walter had no close family nearby, people eventually stopped asking questions. But the horse never gave up. Every time the cousin tried selling or leaving the property, the horse returned to the house again and again, almost as if it knew Walter was still alive inside. Walter explained that the cousin brought him small amounts of food and water only to keep him barely alive while waiting for legal ownership of the property. Nobody ever searched the house carefully enough to discover the hidden upstairs room. And over time, the entire town forgot him. Except the horse. Emma could barely believe what she was hearing. For years, everyone feared the animal. But the horse had been begging for help the entire time. Thunder exploded outside as Walter suddenly grabbed Emma's arm. "He'll come back," Walter whispered fearfully. Emma looked confused. Then, crash. A loud noise echoed downstairs. Someone had entered the house. Heavy footsteps moved through the hallway below. Emma's heart nearly stopped. Walter's face turned pale with terror. "The cousin," he whispered. The horse immediately became alert, stomping nervously against the floor. The footsteps slowly climbed the staircase. One step. Time. Emma quickly looked around the room in panic. The bedroom door remained slightly open while the shadow of a man appeared outside in the hallway. "Who's up there?" an angry voice shouted. Emma's breathing became uncontrollable. The horse suddenly stepped in front of Walter protectively. Then the door burst open. A tall man stood there holding a lantern. The moment he saw Emma beside Walter, his face turned completely white. For several seconds, nobody moved. Then the man turned and ran. Emma immediately rushed toward the stairs while screaming for help as loudly as she could. The storm carried her voice across the town. Lights began turning on inside nearby homes. People rushed outside into the rain. Within minutes, several villagers and the sheriff arrived at the house carrying lanterns and rifles. The cousin tried escaping through the back door, but the horse charged directly toward him, knocking him violently into the mud before he could flee. The sheriff arrested him immediately. Meanwhile, townspeople rushed upstairs and discovered Walter alive inside the hidden room. Shock spread across every face in the house. Some people cried. Others stood frozen in disbelief. Nobody could accept the truth. For years, they had feared the horse, ignored its warnings, mocked its behavior. Yet the animal had shown more loyalty and courage than any human in town. As Walter was carefully carried downstairs, the horse refused to leave his side for even a second. And at that moment, the entire town finally understood the truth behind the empty house. By morning, the story had spread across the entire town. People gathered outside the hospital in complete disbelief. Walter Grayson, the man everyone believed had vanished years ago, was alive. And the horse everyone feared had been trying to save him the whole time. For days, the town could speak about nothing else. The sheriff's investigation revealed the full truth about Walter's cousin and the terrible crime he had hidden for years. People felt sick realizing how easily they believed the rumors instead of searching for the truth. But the thing nobody could forget was the horse. Every morning, the animal waited quietly outside the hospital entrance. And every evening, it refused to leave until the lights inside Walter's room turned off. Nurses began bringing it apples and water. Children who once feared it now walked carefully beside it. Even the toughest men in town lowered their heads with shame whenever they looked into the horse's eyes. Because deep down, everyone knew the same thing. The animal had shown more loyalty than any human around it. Weeks passed, and Walter slowly regained his strength. The first day he finally walked outside with help from a nurse. The entire town stood silently near the hospital entrance. The black horse waited there beneath the sunlight. The moment Walter stepped forward, the horse immediately moved toward him. Then something happened that made nearly everyone cry. Walter wrapped his arms around the horse's neck and broke down in tears. The horse gently rested its head against his chest like it understood every word Walter whispered to it. Nobody spoke. Even the sheriff quietly wiped tears from his eyes. After everything that happened, the bond between them felt almost unbelievable. Later that evening, Walter finally told the townspeople the full story. He explained how the horse escaped the night he was attacked, how it kept returning to the house over and over trying to bring attention to the upstairs room, how storms frightened the animal because Walter suffered most during cold nights, and how every cry people heard outside the house was never anger. It was desperation. The entire town sat in silence listening to him. Some people cried openly. Others couldn't even look at Walter after realizing how many years he spent trapped and alone while they ignored the signs right in front of them. Emma became a hero in town after that night. But whenever people praised her courage, she always gave credit to the horse. "If the horse hadn't trusted me," she said softly, "Walter would still be trapped in that room." A few months later, workers repaired the old house outside town. Fresh paint covered the walls. Broken windows were replaced. The dead grass surrounding the property slowly disappeared. For the first time in years, the house no longer looked cursed. It looked alive again. And every evening, people passing the road often stopped to watch Walter sitting peacefully on the porch beside his horse as the sun disappeared behind the hills. The fear surrounding the house slowly faded away. But the story never disappeared. Parents told it to their children. Travelers passing through town heard the legend of the loyal horse that refused to abandon its owner. And nobody ever mocked the animal again. Then one quiet evening, Walter saddled the horse for the first time since his rescue. The entire town gathered near the road to watch. Walter slowly climbed onto the horse's back while Emma stood nearby smiling through tears. For a moment, everything became silent. The wind moved gently through the trees. The old house stood peacefully behind them. And the horse that once cried outside those walls finally looked calm. Walter looked down at the crowd and smiled softly. "He never gave up on me," he whispered. Then the horse slowly carried him down the road and away from the house one final time. Not as a symbol of fear, not as a mystery, but as proof that loyalty can survive even the darkest cruelty. And from that day on, whenever storms passed through the town at night, people no longer feared the sound of horses in the distance, because they remembered one simple truth. Sometimes animals speak louder than humans, but only a few people are willing to listen.